Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Skills for Mars podcast. Today, I'm welcoming Kate, and we are opening a new chapter of the Skills for Mars discussions, which is called Transitions. Kate, welcome to the podcast, and thanks for agreeing to discuss about changes you've been through in your life.
You're welcome, Yulia.
Before we dive into the details of change, can you tell us a bit about yourself and maybe share in big lines the kind of changes you've been through in your life?
Sure. So I will start, I guess, at the beginning. Born in a small town in central Illinois, which is in the United States. And it was called Crescent City, Illinois. So a town of 630 people. When we moved out, 625, because we had 5 in our family. And so that's in the middle of a cornfield, 360 views. You can see all around, corn, beans. So that little town I started in. And when I was 12 years old, 11, 12 years old, we moved to Fairbury, Illinois. So population 3,000 or 3,600 people. Didn't have a stoplight when we moved there, had a stoplight when we moved out. That's how small it is. A couple little bars, gas station, little grocery store. But it was a big change moving from a town of 635 to 3,000. That was a big change and at a pretty influential part of my life. So,
what age was that?
That was at like 11, 12. Okay. So I was going into 7th grade. And then after that, we moved to, we didn't move. My family didn't move. I went to college at Illinois College in Jacksonville, Illinois, a small little college, like 900 kids. And then after my freshman year, craving a little bit bigger scene, I went to the University of Illinois, so a huge college, tens of thousands of kids, and still in Illinois, but a big university. So that was a big change with a lot of culture. And then after University of Illinois, moved to St. Louis, so kind of a bigger Midwestern city. And then after St. Louis, I got married in St. Louis to my husband, Nick, and we moved to Ithaca, New York, lived there for a year. So that's a small town in upstate New York, but a change outside of Illinois. And then after that, we moved back to Chicago, and that's where we had our kids. So Tommy and Johnny were born
in Chicago.
And then we moved to London after that when they were 3 and 5. And then we spent 3.5 years there, and now we're in Singapore. So we've kind of my mom makes a joke, you can't get farther away now. You've gone a little farther and a little farther. And, as you grow up, you want your kids to go far. But now I'm basically on the other side of the world. So you can't get much farther away.
So pretty much every 3.5, 4 years, moving around the world.
Yeah.
And I asked you before, is Africa next or?
Yeah. We'll see.
That's what's missing in the portfolio,
yes,
right?
I know.
Or Latin America somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, it could be. We don't know. We'll see where life takes us. But we like adventure. But we do with the kids. We get torn because there's part of us that wants to have them have the same upbringing. Kind of where I came from, because I felt like it was a really cool place to grow up. I think a really interesting thing is that you always want something different for your kids. So my parents coming from a small town, when I moved to Chicago suburb, that was something different. And then, you want something better. So that was better. But at the same time, you kind of want them to come when they have kids, and you want them to raise their family kind of like you did. So now it's kind of, with, Nick's parents and my parents, they feel like, is this too far? Is it too much? Is it, they want so much for us, but now we're on the other side of the world. And with everything going on in the world, I think they think right now it's a little too much. Yeah.
But what I've seen from other families with kids moving around is that they gain this openness to experience skill, which other kids that stay in the same place, they don't really have. And what I heard, because I don't have kids, is that you can move them around up to a certain age, but when they start forming bonds, it becomes more and more difficult. But by that time, they would have traveled the world. They would have met different cultures, discussed with different people, heard different opinions, understand that this is
Yeah, I totally agree.
It's not only their opinion.
Yeah. So that's what, in all the circles, because I'm in been in many mom circles, in the world. And that's the thing people say, you want to settle by the time they're this age or this age. Everyone has like a hard age. And our hard age was second grade. Well, now Tommy, our oldest, is in fifth grade. So we're kind of not settled yet. I do feel like the friendship, their bonds are really strong now. And I've seen them, grieve their friends that leave just in the past couple years. Coming here, we had a couple good friends that left last year. They were here with us the first 2 years. And you can see that, that was a huge deal for them because it's somebody they're around every day. And with my life, I've kind of learned to do that. And I've learned to keep in touch with friends. And, I know that that's just how life is, but I think they're just learning that for the first time. So I think it's hard to watch them go through it. And we talk about this all the time as parents. We think, is this a good lifestyle for them to be changing every 3 years, 3.5 years? And no one really has the right answer. I think when I look back at what shaped my life, like I said before, I was in a small farm town. And I think about I'm moving, even if it was from one small town to another one. I left all my friends behind. I was 12 years old. It's such an impressionable age. And I went to a new place, but it was so scary. And I remember, the days and I remember the nights, and it's so vivid, but I think it really shapes you because when you do that at such a young age, then it's like, learning to fly an airplane at such a young age. You're good at it. So then it wasn't scary to go to a bigger university. It wasn't that scary to do this. It wasn't, you learn to change, at an early age, and then you get that confidence and it's going to be okay, even if there's change. So, yeah. So
hopefully it's good. But on the other hand, I think it's hard for anyone to know because this world has become more and more global, right? And we're traveling way more easier than our parents did and our grandparents did.
Right.
So who can tell us if it's good or bad? We just have to try it and hope for the best. Right. But so far, what I've seen in people who have traveled and have spent their, even for young age traveling, when they go into the world of work afterwards, they are more open to try new things, to risk things. They have different ideas. They listen to others. Right. So it feels like it does something good. Yeah. A more worldly view. Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. So I definitely agree. I think that our kids have been around. When we were in London, we were the only Americans, maybe one or two other American families at our entire school, but mostly European families, some Asian families. So that was eye-opening, and that was just kind of their first school experience. They had a little bit when we were in Connecticut, but then moving here, we have more Americans, but then also all the other Asian cultures that, so they've been exposed to many, many cultures. I can definitely, when people talk about, do they see color of skin? They don't really, if they're talking about someone and referencing someone, they may say, oh, it's my kid, my friend, the Indian, he has an Indian dad and Chinese mom or whatever. And that, we talk about it in that terms, but in terms of, I think they are a little bit living outside of the US because it's such a big topic in the US, racism and things like that. It's not something we talk about a lot here because it's not as big as of an issue because everybody's a different color and everybody's, I don't know if it's the nature of the school, of the country. I don't know, but it just doesn't seem, I feel like when they go back, we're going to have to explain a lot of things to them if we go back. So, yeah, in my view, I think it's good when you don't talk about racism and don't put people in boxes, because if you don't talk about it and you just accept people around, I don't think it exists anymore. Right. I mean, it's just whether you are from the other block or you are Indian or whatever, it just feels the same. It's the same kind of talk. It doesn't have any kind of meaning behind this. So and I think just the nature of people, they're in theory, that's what I think happens here. I think that's people. We're just around the different races, and we just accept it, and that's just how it is. And in theory, I think it should work like that. And I think when you get back to the United States, obviously, and I'm sure other countries as well. I didn't experience so much in the UK, but I had 2 toddlers, so I didn't get out much. As we talk about 2 little ones. How did it feel for you? Because you moved from the US to Europe, and now you moved here. So not from the kids' perspective, but from your perspective, how did it feel?
I just with the people, I think. Yeah. I felt so going from the US to Europe, I felt like I was going almost to not a home, but such a familiar place. I would pinch myself every day. Like, I can't believe I live here. And it's something I think it has to do with genetics. Obviously, the people look like me. So I didn't really get homesick. And I could listen to their accent all day because I really, we like the English accent, and it was just fun, from being in the US. I think I love change, and it was just another change, and it was such a big change, and I just embraced it, and I loved it. I loved every minute, and it had to do with my kids too. Were at really good ages. They were at 3 and 5. So, we're just coming out of getting our head out of the ground with diapers and all that stuff. And we moved there in the spring, and it was so many sunny days, and we loved every minute.
Days are long because it's north, so it's really nice.
It was amazing. But I felt like there was genetics there that were inviting me back. Like, I feel like, my roots came from Europe and Scandinavia and there. So I felt like these people were like me, and we really enjoyed it. And then when we transferred here and came to Asia, I remember getting really homesick the first couple weeks because the accent's different. It wasn't as pleasant for my ear to listen to because I had never heard accents like that. And the people looked different. I think that's not that I didn't, appreciate the people for who they are. And now I do, and I see more of the culture, and I, enjoy getting to learn about it. But it was scary in a way because you don't really have people that look like you around. And for the first time in my life, I was in looks wise, I was very much in a minority. And so I think that's what made it homesick, and knowing that I was that much farther away from
I'm sure
all
looks
of our
like
family.
you're exotic here.
Yes. And so when people look at me, I'm the different one now. So,
Can you take a photo with you?
Yes. Yeah. And we've had that too. Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah. So I think, it was really hard coming here. And then I also think, because it was kind of repeating an experience. So we're expatting for the first time in London, and that was an expat experience. So we're out of, the US. And then I think we call it like a first love experience. And from all the other expat, I'm in, like I said, a lot of expat mom circles and stuff. From what I've heard is, your first expat experience is like your first love. Like, you just love it. So if you did it here, maybe if I would have done it here and moved to London second, it would have been a different story, because it's just, wow, I'm outside of the US and I'm doing it, and I have all this confidence, and, it's your first love. It's the first big change that you did and you accomplished. So that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. Definitely. One question that popped to my mind: how different is moving into a new country, right? Networking in Europe versus networking here. And I tell you why I ask it, because I somehow thought it would be easier in Europe because you are born there, you have the same culture, you have the same history. But then coming here, and I've only been here a month and something. If you reach out to people, and I've reached out for the podcast and everything, they tend to reply faster, and they tend to do this networking. I don't know. It feels like it moves quicker here. But you've been here a longer time. So how does it feel for you? Was it easier in London, or was it easier here in Singapore?
In Europe, we moved to Richmond, and Richmond didn't have a lot of Americans in it because we didn't want to do the typical American, go to Starbucks and go to the American school and do all the typical American things, because this was like a new experience. And I was like, this is a chance, because it's a country that speaks our own language. We can move to a place where there's different cultures and still be okay. So yeah, we moved to Richmond, and then I did meet friends I did meet some English friends, and I met a French friend and a, Canadian friend and an Italian friend and all that. But it's funny because on our street, there was a little pub, and we used to go to the pub every Friday. And the people from there that ended up being my best friends were 3 girls from Chicago that lived in Richmond, which I was trying to avoid. But I think you kind of find each other even when you're in circles where they were all trying to do the same thing. They were thinking, oh, this is such a cool, diverse little English town, and we don't want to do the American thing. But of course, that's who I still talk to them. I talked to them this morning. I mean, we all have like a little video chat. And so they're three of my best friends from there. So it was easy, but I think the reason it was easy there was because I found people like me really fast. And so we were kind of bonding over the same thing. So then when we came to Singapore, it was more of, the kids were at an age where they were kind of sad about leaving. They were sad about leaving their friends, and they had other friends. It didn't matter for them. Their friends, they didn't have any American friends. All their friends were English or other European countries. But when we moved to Singapore, we wanted to plug and play. We wanted just, let's do SAS, the Singapore American School, because we wanted, we were trying, the boys were at an age where they understood. So we wanted them to be more on board with the move. So let's do American School. We moved to a big condo building that is notorious for, housing Americans. And so it was kind of the exact opposite of the, but I kind of knew where I would probably end up anyway. And it's not that I don't enjoy other cultures, and I have friends in all different cultures, but I think in the end, we kind of seek out people that are like us, and that's who we kind of bond with. And
maybe it's because it's easier to connect.
It's right. And we kind of know, I think one interesting thing about expatting in general and groups of friends and people that do it, it's almost like a college experience. You get really, really deep relationships because people are vulnerable and they want to go there because they know, and next year I can go there with you because you're going to be gone. You're not going to be my neighbor for 20 years. So you can go on vacation. You can do these things because you know what? I think in the back of your mind, it's kind of like this safety net, like, whatever, we're just going to go all in. We're going to be best friends because you're going to be moving to Texas. I'm going to be in Illinois, or, you're not going to be next to them for 20 some years, where I think like if we were in a United States suburb, you in the
same neighborhood,
you might have more walls up and you may not have that deep of relationship with someone. So
makes I never thought of it like that, but there is something to it now that I think about
definitely.
it.
We definitely go all in. And so some of my best friends I've made, and I think, my best friends for life were my expat friends. So
anything that you see that works across cultures, because everyone is, especially in the business world, right? They all talk about, if you go to Japan, then you have to behave like this. If you go to China, behave like this. If you go to the US, then it's more direct and behave like this. You go to the Netherlands, just everyone will ask you very personal questions. So behave like this.
Right.
Is there anything that works across cultures that you say, wherever you are, this just works in building your network or making it happen, or just, adapting faster. Sorry.
Right. No. I understand what you're saying in terms of like, trying to get relationships built, because every culture has different ways they accept people into their culture. I think it helps being an American. I think that it's a culture that comes with a lot of pros and cons, because I think people look at you and they associate all the negative things about America with you. But then everybody knows about America, so it's easy to be yourself. My accent, I never try to change it. I never try to not act who I am if I'm around other people, because, they're either going to hate it or love it or whatever, but they know what to expect. So I find, it's for some people, I think with other cultures, they may be more reserved when they're, I don't know if you understand, like for Europeans, maybe if they're interacting with someone, they might not have as much charisma or be themselves, because it's not really, they're kind of trying to conform. But I think, I guess it's one pro about being American. You kind of your accent will come out wherever you're at. So people have to accept, like they know who you are. You're not going to try to hide it. And I think you're able to be yourself. And like I said, I think I don't have to worry if people are going to like or hate it, because I think sometimes they've already made up their mind if they're going to be open to it or not. I especially found that in London. I felt like, the American accent is one of the harshest sounds I've read that Londoners can hear. They don't want to hear it. And even when I would hear it, like in the subway, I'd be, oh gosh, I just can't stand it. But you either, like I said, you're either open to them or you're not. And I
Mhm.
feel like I didn't have to hide it. So I felt like going in, it was easy to make relationships there. So
Okay.
make it work. Mhm.
So pretty much it's just be yourself
Yes. Yeah.
and it works.
Yeah. That's how it works. It's always worked for me. But I also think it's where, like I was talking about where I came from, a small farm town. I wasn't trying with, 10 kids in my class or whatever. There wasn't a lot of popular kids and not I just you're just kind of all family, and you are who you are. And there's a lot of autonomy in a small town where you can just go out on your bike, and, we never have phones, and we were just riding all around town. You'd be home at dark. And so I feel like that gave me a lot of confidence as well. Just, I think that's one thing we worry about with our kids, and not so much in Singapore, but when we go back to the US and in London, about the safety issue. It's like, you have to check in, you have to do this, you have to do this. My mom and dad didn't know where I was at, but it was a different day and age, and different way to raise the kids,
and
I
London
guess.
is 11 million people and a lot who come and go. And
Yes.
I mean, crime rate wise, versus Singapore is
right. And even the
can't
old
even
neighborhood
compare.
we lived in, Tommy's 11, but kids, ages 12 and 13 are, getting held up with knives and, things taken from them.
Yeah.
And so I think Singapore is kind of a bubble, and it's something that we loved being here because we like the bubble, but at the same time, they're not going to probably stay on this island forever. So
Well, what we found when we moved around, so we always thought that cross cultures, making a joke and smiling would always work.
yes.
But we found out that it works differently. So in Romania, we always joke. That's typical our culture. We laugh about ourselves. We laugh about others. Everyone is laughing. We went to France. It doesn't really work that way. British humor is different. But still, there's humor.
Right.
We came here and we tried jokes. And it was just...
Yeah.
We are still trying to find the right kind of joke.
Right. I think that's right. Yeah.
Because we thought it works across cultures.
Right.
And we figured out that maybe not.
I know. Yeah. I kind of know what you mean. Like I'm picturing myself in elevators here and like, these awkward moments where you're just, and I think for me, I never think about it, but sometimes people don't laugh or they don't even say anything. And I just walk out the elevator and it doesn't even, like I said, because I'm like American, I'm like, oh, they don't like American. So it doesn't even cross my mind. I don't think about that interaction or relationship. I don't even think a second thought about it, but it happens now. Like when I think about when I interact with people like that, because coming from a small town, if someone's crossing, I don't do it as much anymore, but the funniest thing was when I was in London and I, started coming across people on a path or running or whatever, I'd smile and say good morning, and they're turning around.
Yeah.
Who are you talking to? Like you just don't do that. And so now I've kind of, reined it in a little bit. You can't be like Miss Happy-Go-Lucky from the Midwest like you were to everybody. But at the same time, you just kind of be who you are. And if they like it, they like it. And
I agree.
No sweat if they don't.
In Romania, with foreign people, not foreigners, but just people you don't know, sometimes you say hello, sometimes you don't. You go to France, you just don't do it. You go to the Netherlands, everyone says hello and everyone smiles.
Okay, I probably
and
like
then,
it there.
Yeah, exactly. You
I've
come
never
here
been there.
and you're learning and relearning, and it can get like, okay, am I saying hello in the elevator here?
Right.
It's a British guy, so maybe they will say back. Say back.
You always start with a smile, and
yeah.
if they smile back, you can say good morning.
Yes.
Maybe it's kind of like reading that. Yeah, I know the exact feeling, but yeah, I guess I don't think so much about it. I laugh when it's, when people get stunned, if you're just good morning. And when when my mom, oh my goodness, when we were living outside of New York City, I remember we were taking the train into the city one morning. It's all the businessmen, and my mom gets on and she's like, and the guy in the suit's like, the same thing. Like, who are you waving at? She's like, I'm just saying good morning.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Good morning. It's just, my parents are they just smile and say hi to everyone, but they've never been outside of a small town. So
on the other hand, I had a podcast with a friend on building habits, right? It's still yet to come, but because we had a hard time processing it here, but we were talking about building habits like reading books. And at some point I said, look, why don't we build habits on saying hello? to people.
Yeah.
Or saying goodbye.
Yeah.
Or just smaller things that would make our lives so
Right.
much better. Just smiling
Right.
and rather than going to the gym, reading a book. Okay, let's start
Right.
with the basics.
Right.
Because sometimes we forget we are human and we live in the same
Right.
space, and it's nice to
Right.
say hello and smile.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It just brings a bit of positivity.
I think it's hard, so much harder that
Mhm.
these days with the, obviously the technology and the phones, because we, just driving by a bus stop, we were just pointing out to the kids one time, like you look at like 10 people at the bus stop and everyone's like this. Or if you don't have that, I think there was just, maybe it's a cultural thing too, but I just feel like if you don't have that, there's just more ways to interact. But I'm totally guilty of it. I'm sure you are too. It's just
For sure.
what
'Cause
you do.
you learn the ways of the new culture. That's how I feel. You have to adapt, and it's
Right.
not them who are going to change. It's you that you have to change.
Right.
So,
Right.
did you have to give anything up culturally wise or behaviorally wise because you moved into different countries and said, this doesn't work anymore?
Trying to think if when we moved to London, no, I feel like, just the part of what we were just saying, just saying hello or smiling at someone. Maybe it's taking a little bit more reserved tone of voice with different people. Patience, because every culture works different in terms of getting settled, whether it's bank accounts and phones and, cable people, and like the US works in a way different system than does the UK than does here. And so I think that culturally for me is the hardest thing every time we move is just getting settled and learning. Like, I feel like in Singapore, it's like it happens and the people are smart and they care. They're maybe not as friendly. I feel like deep down they are good people, but I feel like it's step by step by step, like just getting registered for something or getting, it's always a process and it works. It totally works. And people will help you along the way, but it's not like in the US where the customer service is through the roof. And if it doesn't happen, you can, write in this complaint and do this and do this. And people have, so much more say. And then in the UK, sometimes I felt like the people just didn't care.
Yeah.
The customer service, and, I'm just thinking about setting everything up when you move. I'm like the cable, I remember crying on the phone, and Nick and I were on the phone just trying to open a bank account because you can't get a phone if you don't have a bank account. You can't get a bank account if you don't have a phone. And Nick's out of the country and we still don't have cable. And, I have these kids, and I remember crying to the lady at DBS, because Nick couldn't pass his security questions because we were just trying to set an appointment. Well, that's all we wanted, just the appointment to get me to get a bank account. And the lady's like, he asking him all these security questions. He must have answered 3 weeks prior when he opened the account, and he still couldn't pass them. And so I just remember, in the US, this would never happen. It's me, I promise. And I'm like, I just remember on the phone, crying, saying, are they going to ask for the ID number off the bracelet that you went home from the hospital in? Is that the last question? Because we don't know all these answers. But I think it's just those process. That was so.
Did crying help?
What? No.
In France, it would have.
Okay.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Crying and complaining helps.
Yeah. I felt like it was just the same rote response. I'm sorry, ma'am, but
you have to answer. Yeah.
We have to have you answer the security. So we had to wait. I mean, it all happened, but it was just culturally, I think that was a big change for us. So
moving a bit to a different topic, but still on change. I think one of the biggest maybe for you was career change.
Oh,
because you were kind of settled, I imagine, in the US. So
yes. Yeah.
How did the shift happen?
So I'm a speech to language pathologist. And so that's what I got my master's in. So 6 years of school. And, so I worked, I've worked in schools and a little hospital and a little, and then I do birth to 3, home services. So I contract with different departments in the state departments in the US. And so, I did have my own kind of business. I think the thing though that changed that more so than moving around was having children. So I think that really put a stop. And I think obviously there's millions of mothers that can relate to that. And so then I went to part-time. So it kind of eased me into, like, when we moved to London, then I couldn't practice because it was a huge deal to get my license there. And we didn't know how long we'd be there, and it was going to cost, so we just didn't invest the time. So I think, like, the fact that we had kids really kind of eased me into that, because I wasn't working, that was such a huge change, and I was only working part-time then. And then when we moved to London, I ended up doing something I've always wanted to do. So it was a good, positive thing. I started teaching, fitness classes and making zero money, and teaching Zumba, Latin American dancing. That was super, super fun. And it was something I always have wanted to do, but I knew it wasn't lucrative. And I thought, well, this is the time to do it. The kids were starting to go back to school, and I had a little more time, and I just wanted to see, can I do this? And I could. I did. I started a little class, and I rented a room, and I didn't make a lot of money. I didn't make any money, probably. Right. If you calculate all the money I spent on the clothes and the coffee, but I really, really enjoyed it. So, and now I'm thinking about getting back into it. I've been working because there's the Singapore American School. So I've been able to do a little work there. And, but I've been tinkering with, I know it's good money, working at the school, and I like being around the kids, but I think I just want a little bit more fun, something I'm passionate about, keeping people fit and exercise and dancing, and just adding a little spice to life before I get too old. So
this is the beautiful side, the pink side of the story.
Yeah.
What's the dark side of the story?
With
career-wise.
Right, career, right.
Until you get to the point where you decide, hey, I'm going to do what I love the most.
Right.
Fitness.
Right.
Or I'm going working here.
Right.
Before you get into that. So move, and before you actually find something else to do besides kids.
Right. Right.
How does it go? What are the feelings in between?
So like when I'm moving, and then just trying to figure out, like, settling, but not being able to do what I want to do,
exactly.
like in a new place.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess, I think it is. I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard for me to relate, because I know I can do my career anywhere, the speech pathology. Like I said, in London, I couldn't, but it was kind of a different time anyway with the kids being young. But I know that when we go back to the US or wherever we move, that it's something that transfers everywhere. Everyone is,
you can always fall back.
Right. I can always fall back on it, even if, and it's not something, I mean, I'm passionate about it, but it's probably, I feel like there's other things that I want to do when the kids get older that maybe, maybe aren't, maybe in that field. I don't know. I haven't really figured it out yet, but it's not something I'm, just waiting to get back to. I loved it, and I love the kids, and I love the idea of the job. It's helping people communicate. I mean, there's so much, great.
The value add is immense.
Right. Right. So whether it's a, 18-month-old baby just working on eye contact, or, someone, older child that stutters, or anything, just communication. I love the idea of it, but it is hard work, and it's emotional. So I think having the kids, and, when we had children and I got away from it for a while, I think that was a welcome break. I was kind of in a little burnout stage. So, I feel like I've never thought about moving and not being able to do that, because I feel like wherever we move, I'll be able to dive back into that in some shape or form. And if not, I feel like I'm confident enough that there's something else there for me. So say we moved to Africa and I couldn't do it, or we're not going to move to Africa, but for your point, like if I couldn't do it somewhere, if I, like a lot of women move around and they can't do their jobs, I feel like I would have value add to other things that are going on, whether it's a philanthropy, or if I'm doing, free exercise classes for something, or I feel like there's other places, and I have enough confidence in myself and my passions that there would be other places that I could make a difference.
So what's the process you go through so you keep yourself not going through those dark moments when you maybe don't necessarily have a meaning, but you have to keep it cool, whether it's for the family, for yourself, just to keep the self-esteem going and all the change and everything.
Yes.
Where do you get your strength from?
Right.
Because I think this is something that people need to understand when they go through this kind of change. How do you
So I think
keep it cool?
So what I was thinking about this, because we briefly had a conversation, this would be about change. So I kind of was thinking how does it work for me? Because we've been through so much. My dad, when I was younger, I remember I was in college and I was running a marathon, my first marathon, and it was dark. We were driving to the marathon, and I remember my dad had to like let me out on the road because my mom and dad were there, and I had to run to the start because it was like traffic jam and 5 a.m. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm nervous. And he is like, why are you so nervous? You just have to put one foot in front of the other. That's literally what you do in a marathon. It's just it's one foot in front of the other. It's super, super easy, right? Like, why should I be scared of that? I can do that. I've done it before, or not that long, but people do it every day. Yeah. It's one foot in front of the other. And so I think about that all the time. Like, just one day at a time. It's just one foot in front of the other. You have such a, you're moving across the world and you have children and you have a huge change coming up. And is it going to be good for them? Is it not going to be good? Just one day at a time. It's just one foot in front of the other. It's going to work. And I think I also go back to, I kind of stay in a space where I know, my husband, Nick, is super smart and he's very good at change. He's good at doing change. Sometimes he handles it in different ways, but I trust him to make really good choices. And so when we make a choice and he's on board, I know that it's a good choice. So I think having a good, strong relationship, and seeing others do it. So I see we're not moving to a place where no other, Americans have ever moved before with their family. So I think if it was like that, I'd be a little more scared, but there's expats all over the world and they're doing it in way more exotic places. And for things like big, big, scary things that are scary in my life, like giving birth or having your first child and,
not really knowing what to do.
Yes. Not knowing what to do. I go back to this thing. Well, not what it's not what the worst can happen, but so many other people have done this before me and have done totally fine. Whether you don't have to be the best and you're not going to be the worst. You don't have to be the best. And if other people can do it, like, I hate to say it, but like the dumbest person on the world will give birth or, if it's something like that, like I can do it. Like, there's people all around the world and I'm probably on a scale and I'm hoping I fall on, somewhere and I'm in a country with that is on a scale and I'm on this side of the scale. So I feel like even if I pass out and do nothing, like things will happen and everything will be okay. Like so I feel like I always go back to, the people that surround me and then how many people have done this before. So I know that that's what I look at and where I'm at in that whole picture.
How do you go about learning the new skill? Because when you moved to London, you didn't do your job anymore, right?
Right.
Teaching Zumba. I know it might feel like very easy, but it's a totally different
skill. Yeah. Yes. It was.
Even doing philanthropies are totally different skills.
Right.
So how much time does it take you to learn the new stuff and where do you go to for education or just knowing who's who, how you get around?
Right. It was a lot of just discovering it on my own. So I wanted to, I thought, well, I have a master's degree and I know to teach Zumba, you need like a couple certificates, right? So, but I did need a fitness certificate. So I just kind of got online and I said, what's one that travels worldwide? I think the internet helps with everything because you can just Google and there's great information. And I don't know how people did it before moving to other countries and trying to reinvent themselves. But I just, it was a lot of discovery. And then, I think it has I didn't have a lot of confidence. Like, it's so funny because I think about the money I make with speech pathology and the money I made for Zumba. I was way more insecure about changing careers and doing Zumba or doing a fitness class because I didn't have as much training and I'd never done it before. And I'm older and most of the crowd coming in is younger. And, it was scary, but I felt like it's part of, just keeping young and keeping yourself growing in different ways. So.
Is it harder to get accepted when you make this kind of career changes when you're older? Because you've already done it and you've done it several times. Did you find it easier when you were younger, or do you find it just as easy?
Yeah, I think it's easier when you're younger because, I mean, well, especially with the fitness, a lot more people are younger that are going into fitness, and because it's not really super lucrative unless you're a personal trainer and you have tons of clients. And so it was more of a passion. I had to look at it like, this isn't my first job. This isn't my, it's a job, but it's not like I have to do it to support the kids. Yeah. And I think that's a big difference from me to a lot of people who are changing careers is my career was not supporting my family. So I had the luxury of kind of finding a passion that I wanted to do. And maybe I even lost money on it, but my husband was supportive. And as long as I was happy, and it wasn't something that, I don't think I would have gone into it had I known I didn't have the support from Nick and, that safety net of him bringing the income in and supporting the family. So,
yeah, I think that is important when you make changes, to have something to fall back on, because you're trying, especially at an older age.
Right.
And I was discussing with Yuri 2 days ago on the other podcast, and he said the same. So he basically moved from an oil and gas company to doing this IoT digital identity, which is very, very different. He was in just purchasing on the other side, right? So he had to go out and become a freelancer. And then he said, yeah, you do need at least somewhere a year or something, so you can try and then you have something to fall back on, but still you need some security because you're no longer in the care of your parents.
Yeah. That's the thing. You have to, you have to have something to fall back on if it doesn't work out. And for me, it was, I had a husband that had a job, and if I didn't work, it was fine. And if I did, it was just a bonus for me.
But you do need to have some options. Yeah.
Right. And the same here, like I'm working a lot here, but, I don't have to. And sometimes Nick, my husband, tells me not to. He's like, you're gone, 13, 14 hours a day. But I feel like it's good to have an identity, and it's good to have a purpose. And I feel like I appreciate then the times I'm not working as much. So
is it important to find a purpose and a meaning? Because psychologists talk about it, right?
Right.
But then you have people who say, no, it's not that important because you can just live, go sit at the swimming pool, watch TV and whatever. Right. Whereas psychologists and research usually say it is important to have meaning. It is important to have purpose.
I feel like it is. And I feel like it's just kind of depends on the type of life that you enjoy living. Some people don't enjoy, they're not go-getters and they don't want to go out and change the world or, do something different or seek out a new career. And then I feel like I think it is important I think some people age faster if they're not keeping it fresh. So I see some of the people I know back in the US and kind of doing the same every day. And, and I think for us, it's been the unique thing has been like the travel and like keeping it exciting for us and the kids and being able to change every few years. And I think that's not a purpose, but I think it's something that that we're trying to instill in the kids is be able to adapt to change and things like that. But I just think it depends on the person. I feel like some people are happy. Like I can think of a handful of people I know that are totally happy in their life. And, I think it depends on the person's personality and do they have other issues in their life? Maybe they have a health struggle or a mental health struggle. And that's enduring and that's something that will be there their whole life. And they, maybe they're not going to be one of these people that goes out and finds purpose. Yeah. They're just trying to make it day to day. And if they can have a good day with their family and sit at the pool and read their book, and that is just good enough for them. And I think that's amazing. But I think there's other people out there that, if they don't have those other factors that are impeding, impeding what they want to do, they need to get out there and find it because people do get bored.
Right. I find it as well. So I or at least I do get bored.
Yeah. But so I'd say not everybody, but I think it depends on the point in your life. And I think it depends on the person and what other things they have going on. So
if you are to think of the top 3 lessons for you that you've learned throughout your life, dealing with change, moving from place to place, what would be the top 3 that you say, I always carry this with me?
Dealing with change. Oh gosh, this is tough on the spot. Well, I think I can reflect on our conversation. So be yourself.
Okay.
As long as you keep that in mind. And if you're happy with yourself, if you're as a person, I think always, be yourself. For change, let's see. Know that, tomorrow's put one foot in front of the other. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good lesson. Just if it's a huge change, you're just like my dad said, it's like marathon. You're just putting one foot in front of the other and going moment to moment. And number 3, know that you're not the only one. So everybody else in the world is going through change all the time. It's every day is changing. Every moment is changing. And, no matter what kind of change you're probably experiencing, someone else has probably experienced something worse or bigger, or, just kind of putting everything in perspective like that. So, I think, those are 3 good things. I'll have to think back and review them. Hopefully they covered all the pieces.
Would it be the same thing you would say to a kid?
Yeah, I think those are really simple steps. One foot in front of the other. Just take it, breathe. Like I do little breathing exercises with my kids, and I'm like, don't think about that. Just let's breathe, focus on the breath. One foot in front of the other. I tell the kids that. And I always tell them they're not alone, right? They're not, there's other kids that are going through, I think I mentioned before, one of my sons has type 1 diabetes, which is a, lifelong disease he'll have forever. And it's really tough. But I always tell him, like, there's other kids out there. Every person in the world has their thing. That's one of my things I always tell them. Everybody has their thing. Like if you have this now, but your friends, it looks like they don't have anything, but they're going to have their thing, and their family has their thing. Yeah. And if they don't, then you don't know them well enough, because everybody has a thing in their life. It's no one's going to go through life without something major, something that will be that impactful. So, and then the third, what was my first one?
I think we went through all of them.
Yeah. So, I think if there's simple little things to tell the kids. So I think it would probably be about the same. Oh, be yourself. That was the other one. Yeah. Totally. Especially kids, because they are, they're so innocent. So if they're themselves, then yeah.
I think it's good to learn how to be yourself in different worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you would like to say about change that maybe I didn't ask you?
Jeez. I think just embracing it. So like when I said we got here, I was very homesick because of the, the people's faces and the accents. And then I started to embrace the culture. I thought, well, I'm not going to change it. This is where we're at for a while. I thought of all the things we just talked about, putting one foot in front of the other, and, other people have done this. I can do this. But the other part I did was embrace the culture. And so, we touched on the meditation. I started doing a lot of meditation classes. And so I think that's helped deal with this change. So I think that's a big part of, I thought, well, I'm moving to Southeast Asia and I'm not going to like pick this really cool thing they've been doing for millions of years here up. Like that would be, a waste. So I started doing that and embracing the culture in other ways, just exploring going and traveling to the places that, we came here to see, and really thinking about, and I do this a lot, thinking about the culture of the Asian people, and, they're very different than me. And sometimes it's frustrating. And sometimes, they're different in a good way or in a bad way, but why they are the way they are, and just being interested in it and, wondering about it. So kind of leaving that open and embracing it all. One of the things that I always like to do is just keep little things of the day the same. So whether like when we go travel to an exotic place or we're moving to a new place, like the kids and I, one thing we do at night is we read, and I read to them. We're doing the Harry Potter series. And that's, so no matter where we are in the world, if we're visiting back in the US or if we're visiting back in London or if we're traveling, to Thailand or we're moving back or whatever, they know every night they're going to get that book.
They have certain routines.
Yeah. So there's a routine. Yeah. And so that's comforting, I think, for them. So that's for the kids. And like for me, maybe it's a TV show that I like. I like some dumb TV shows. And so I know that whether anywhere in the world I am, if they have Wi-Fi or if I have it on my computer, I can watch my dumb TV, even if it sounds ridiculous, but you have that comfort at the end of the day. Or,
it's the same like maybe wearing the blanket that your grandmother gave you.
Yes. You have your same pajamas or your blanket or whatever. And then like in the morning you have your cup of coffee. Like I always think of that as just something like anywhere in the world you go, you can, if you like coffee, you can have your cup of coffee and like, it doesn't matter where you're at and that stays the same. So it's like, if you're having a really hard day and the change is hard and, you're just trying to get settled, you have those little things throughout the day that you can just look forward to. And that reminds you that you're still you and you still have your relationships and
you still have your
that's
routine.
Gonna
So
stay.
some parts of your life are stable.
Yes. So you just look forward to those little bits if you're having a hard time.
That's
So
good.
That's yeah.
It's very funny because I never thought of it, but I do the same. So I need my 45 minutes in the morning with coffee and breakfast and just wherever I am, it's the same.
Yes. Yeah.
It just feels
same.
like
I do a run too.
Balance.
Yeah. Like I run and I run almost every day. And no matter where I'm in the world, that can happen. Yeah. So if I can put my shoes on and get out and do that, then it's same. It's a great day.
Thank you for sharing that.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you.